Hi everyone! Sorry it's been so long since the last time I made a video, but anyway, in this video I'm going to integrate MongoDB into our chat application so that we can start saving the messages that the users send into a database and that we can retrieve the messages when we want to, like when a new user connects. So if you don't already have MongoDB installed, you can do that on the MongoDB site. So it's just mongodb.org, and then if you go to the downloads, you can download MongoDB for your OS. So I'm just going to assume you have MongoDB installed right now and move on. This video isn't going to be much of an introduction into MongoDB if you haven't used it before. It's more just going to be how do we add it into this chat application using Node. So if you don't know much about NoSQL databases, well, I don't really know much either, but you can always read a ton online on the MongoDB like docs and so forth. And so definitely check those out. But anyway, moving on. So specifically for our application, we probably want to use a module called Mongoose. So Mongoose is a node module for MongoDB that makes just working with MongoDB easier. So if you go to, whoops, let me close out of this one. If you go to your directory, you can just install Mongoose by doing npm install mongoose. And so it'll install for me. And so after it's installed, we can include Mongoose just like the other modules that we've included by doing require mongoose. And then we can easily connect to our MongoDB database by using mongoose.connect. And then we pass in a MongoDB URI. So the URI starts with just MongoDB : // and then we have to enter in the host, or like where our database is located. And so it's just on my localhost, so I'm putting in localhost, and then after another slash, we can type in the name of the database. So I'm just gonna call the database that we want chat. And so you'll notice that I don't actually have this database created yet. Mongoose will just automatically create that database for me when I pass in something new. There are other things that you can add to this URI if necessary. So, for example, I have MongoDB running on the default port, which is 27107. You probably do too, but if you don't, you can add that in. Also, if we wanted like user authentication, you could add that in too, but we don't need any of that for now at least. And so we can simply continue on. So the connect function has a callback, and that has a parameter of error. And so when we do that, we probably want to just check if there's an error, and if there is, log it to the console. And then if not, maybe display a success message. So to MongoDB. There we go. So we can check that out and kind of test out our connection. But before we run our application, we have to start MongoDB. And so on a Mac, I just have to type in MongoDB. It's different on Windows, if I recall correctly. And I'm not sure if it's different on Linux, but you can find exactly what command you have to use on the MongoDB website. And so after that, just start my app. And we get our success message, so it looks like that worked. The next thing we have to do is create a schema. So MongoDB, as opposed to SQL databases like MySQL, doesn't store things in tables. Instead, MongoDB stores things in collections of collections of documents. So documents have a certain type of structure to them, and we can define that structure within a schema. So if you use Mongoose, well, first create a variable. So I'll just call it a chat schema. And I can create a new schema by doing mongoose.schema. And so in MongoDB, documents are encoded in BSON, which is just binary JSON. So you'll notice that it's really easy to show the structure of a document because it's just like creating a JSON object. So what do we want to save in our document? Well, we probably want to save like the nickname of the user, which I'm going to call Nick to be consistent with the rest of the terminology that we've used in the application. So Nick. And then really what we're doing in the schema is we want to define the type for each of the, I guess, fields that we want to use. And so the nickname is just going to be a string. So I'm just going to type in string. And then that's the same with the message. So that'll also be a string. Lastly, we also probably want to enter in the time that a message was sent so that we can sort by recent messages, for example. And also we might want to actually display the time that a message was sent later on in the application if you choose to add that in. So I'm just going to create something called created. So that's what I'll call the time, I guess. And this right here for the nickname and message is kind of the shorthand way of defining like the type. Besides just defining the type of a field, there are other things you can do, such as setting the default. So in order to do that, we just enclose all of that in curly braces. And so you can define the type as a, we want to define the type as of created as a date type. And then the default is just going to be date.now. So we never have to actually explicitly add in the created part because it just defaults to the current time. And that's basically what we'll want no matter what. So this whole like schema thing in general is just convenient because, for example, if your nickname is like 1, it won't save as an integer. It'll just save as a string. And just so forth like that. It's useful for checking certain conditions. If you do want a number from the user, you want it to not be saved as a string, for example. And so that's automatic kind of like data validation before it gets saved to your database. So you can also in the schema, you can add in like nested values and such, just like a regular JSON object. You know, you can create a name field and then put first and last underneath that, like name, and then first string, last string. And so that's what's nice about it. You can just structure like you would normally. So we don't need that. Okay, so that's the schema, and it does all those wonderful things, but it doesn't really help us for saving, for example, documents in a database or like retrieving documents or anything like that. To do any like real functions with MongoDB, we have to create a model in Mongoose. So I'm just going to call our model chat. And so to create a model, do mongoose.model. By the way, don't forget the capital S on the schema, but model does not have a capital M. It's a little confusing, trips me out. But anyway, so mongoose.model, this is where you'll actually create a collection inside of your database. So the first parameter is going to be the name of the collection. Well, kind of. So let's just call the name message. This will automatically create a collection called messages in MongoDB. So I just keep the name as a singular because it'll be turned into a plural form when the collection is actually created. And so the second parameter is just the schema you want to use for that collection. So all the documents will have this type of schema. Although technically the schema is flexible for each document. That's the other nice thing about MongoDB. You don't have to stay strictly to the schema. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of diverging. Okay, so we have a model and everything now. We can use this model to create documents and then save them to our database. So we probably want to save messages as they're coming in. That's a good thing to do. If you remember, this socket.on is where we receive messages the user sent. However, in the last video, we added in whispers. And so whispers are all in this block. And the only like actual messages are right here. We don't really want to save whispers to our database because one, like whispers are pretty much, I think, pretty transitory. They're just messages people, quick little messages. They're not really things people mean to be permanent in the first place. But then also, we couldn't save whispers even if we wanted to, because we'd also have to save the user that the whisper was going to, and that would just be such a pain since we don't actually have user accounts right now. And so we're just going to save regular messages. And so you could like basically create a new document, I guess, that you can save by saving it as a variable. So I'm going to call my new document new message. And then to create that, you just do new chat, because that was the name of our model. And then it's going to be the exact same as this. We're just passing in the values for that schema we made before. So the message is just going to be our message variable. Then nickname, socket.nickname. So I think that's why it's so convenient. It's already in the same type of data since MongoDB uses BSON, just like JSON. So, and then we don't have to include the date in here since we set the default to date.now. It'll be completely fine. And so we've created that document, and then to save it to the database, you just do new message.save, and then there's a callback function that has an error. So if there is an error, let's just throw it. And then if there's not, we will actually emit the new message. So let's start that up. Hopefully that all works. Okay, so hi, testing. Okay, so I still get the messages displayed, so presumably this all worked without throwing an error. But to be even more sure, so I have a little GUI installed for MongoDB called MongoHub, and so if I open that up, here's my chat database. Disregard that chat too, that was just something I made before. And so here's chat, and I have my messages. Also disregard that collection, something else I made before this video, sorry. And so there's a count of 2, which means probably just those 2 messages I just entered. So if I query that for all of them, there we go, hi, Smitha. And you also get my time, the time that I entered that in. So that's nice. And now that we have messages saving when we enter messages in, the next thing we probably want to do is retrieve messages when a new user connects so they get the messages that they missed. So we want to do that as soon as a new user connects. And the reason for that is when you're on this page and you're just like waiting to enter in a username, you're still receiving messages in the background. So I can put in, I'm still here. And although you don't see anything when you're waiting to type in your username, since the chat div is hidden, you're still receiving those messages. So now if I type that in, you'll see that I got that message already. So we want to retrieve the messages as soon as the user connects, so we don't retrieve, for example, like this I'm still here message twice. So when we do that, there are a couple of ways to query in Mongoose. They're all pretty similar, but they just have a bit of a difference. So, okay, sorry, started typing what I was saying. So you use your model like you did to save messages, except you do chat.find, and then first parameter is just some like limitations on what you want to find. So if you just put in the curly braces without anything in them, it finds everything. But if I wanted to, for example, just check for, users with the nickname Smitha, then I could put that in. And so you can just put in conditions, so kind of like where statements, I guess, in there. And then there's a callback function. And the callback function, the first parameter is error, second is docs. And so you can do that. And then just if there's an error, just throw the error. Not really doing much here. And then if not, let's just emit the documents. So socket.emit, because we only want to emit it to that one person who just connected. And then how about like load old messages? And we can just pass the documents. So yeah, I mean, let's actually put a message here so we can check to make sure this is working. Sending old messages. Or just check to make sure an error was thrown. And so just refresh. Okay, sending old messages. So we get that, so it probably worked. We just have to add in something to receive that event on the user side. So for socket.on load old messages, I'm just gonna call it docs instead of data, I guess, to be even more clear, or at least that seems clear to me. You might want to stay consistent, whatever you want to do. So the way we want to add messages in is the exact same way we added messages in for this new message event. So I'm just going to change this into this line into a function so that we can reuse it. So display message is what I'll call it. And then data. Okay. Awesome. And so for the docs, let's just loop through the docs. So the docs is just an array of all the documents you received back. So let's do like length I++, and then display message docs I, so that we're displaying each document. Okay, and also this bothers me because apparently there wasn't an int here, so kind of worried about that, so I'm just adding that in. Okay. John. Whoops, what's going on? Oh, on line 73, oh my goodness, what am I doing? This is JavaScript. Okay, sorry, I'm really messing up a lot in this video. And again, this should be docs.length. Sorry about that, it is late. Okay. And so anyway, obviously not using that changed my int to a var, makes sense. And so hopefully this works now. Yay, so we get those old messages back. The next thing we want to do is, so we are getting messages back, however, we're getting all the messages back. In your actual application, you probably don't want to get all the messages back, especially if you have a lot of messages. So we can limit the number of messages we get. And so the way we do this is we can just append that to our query. So let's save this as a variable, our chat.find message as a query. And then after we get that, we can do things with it. So query.limit to 8. I'm doing 8 just so I can show you that it's actually limiting. So let's do like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. And then, so the way we're querying now is we're saving this as a variable, and then we're sort of waiting for execution later. So this doesn't automatically execute at all when you save it as a variable. Instead, you have to make it execute manually by using the execute function, and then you can put the callback function within that. And so let's check that out and make sure I only get 8 back. Okay. Yay, so I only get 8 messages back, so that works perfectly. This is automatically, the only thing is, you notice that in a chat application, you want to get the most recent messages. So right here, you get 8, but the problem is you get the first 8 messages. And what we really want to do is get like the last 8 messages. So the way we can do that is we can sort the query by the created field. So we want to sort it descending from like the latest created, so the highest created, which would be the most recent, down. So the way we can do that is just put sort and then inside it minus created. So that does it descending. And then if you want to do it ascending, you could just do it like that. But descending would be like this. Okay, so let's do that. The only problem, well, let's see. So we do get it in, we do get the last 8 now, but now the problem is the order they're displayed is opposite to what we wanted originally. So the latest message starts at the top and then it goes down. Since we sorted it and then limited it to 8, so the one at the top was the most recent. And so we can change that just on our client side by starting with the length -1, and then going while I is greater than or equal to 0, and then going down instead. So we're starting with the last item in the array and then going down. So now we get them the way we want. That's pretty much it for how we want to include MongoDB in our chat application. So hopefully this works out well. I'm sorry that I feel like this tutorial might have been kind of fast, especially if you don't really know MongoDB, but it's just really hard to explain, I guess, both what MongoDB is and then also use it and have a reasonably short video. I wonder how long this video is. It might be pretty long. I don't know. But anyway, so I hope this helped. I'll put the code download in the description as always. And then thanks a lot for, I guess, subscribing to me, guys, and sending me messages and stuff. Like, I really love getting messages and things. I don't know how much more I'm going to do on this chat application series. I don't want to say any features I might add because I might end up not doing it, because I just feel like this is pretty much the solid kind of application you need to like extend more if you wanted to do it. But yeah, I might do more on this. I think I might make just a random how to web scrape in Node.js video, so I might do that instead next. But we'll see how it goes. Just, I guess, let me know what you want and I might change my mind. And so we'll see. Thank you for watching. Awesome.